the noise of the rushing world. A gentle voice, a story unfurled, wisdom from a distant shore, opening a brand new door.
Did you find peace in your heart today, as the shadows stretch long outside the window, or perhaps as you sit catching your breath under the soft glow of a lamp? I send you my warmest greetings. Sometimes we run so hard, looking only at what's ahead, that when we finally stop, we feel lost, unsure of where we are or where we are headed. In those moments, we yearn for a small space where our souls can simply rest. The story I want to share with you today is about a sanctuary built from those very feelings. It's about the novel, Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-rum. This book doesn't rely on grand spectacles or shocking twists. Instead, it reflects the facets of our lives like a gently flowing stream. The protagonist, Yeong-ju, once lived a life others envied, but one day she walked away from it all to open a tiny bookstore in a quiet neighborhood. There, the aroma of brewing coffee and the sound of turning pages speak to weary souls, whispering that it's okay to be slow, that you are enough, exactly as you are. Let's step through the doors of the Hyunam-dong Bookshop together. Let's listen to the fragments of life shared by Yeong-ju, Min-jun, and their neighbors. The first story. The opening. A decision born of solitude. When I decided to open the bookstore, there was no grand business plan or ambitious vision. I simply needed a place to hold on to myself. As I was falling apart, I still remember the air on the day I first opened the doors. A quiet residential area on the outskirts of Seoul, a spot where few people passed by. People looked at me with curiosity and doubt. But for me, this place was my only breathing room. Why did I open a bookstore here? People ask. Truthfully, I didn't have a clear answer. I just wanted to breathe. I needed something to pierce through the suffocating weight in my chest. And for me, that something was books. Sitting alone in the empty shop, the heavy silence sometimes pressed down on me, but even that solitude felt like a sweet relief. For years, I had lived to meet the expectations of others, never hearing my own voice. Finally, I was facing myself. In the beginning, the shop was agonizingly quiet. There were many days when not a single customer walked in. But I chose to embrace that time, fully arriving. In the morning, to mop the floors, dusting the shelves, and carefully arranging the books. I loved it was a ritual of tidying up. My own cluttered life, people passing by seemed to be betting on when this little shop would go bust. But it didn't matter. What mattered to me wasn't the daily sales, but how much I lived as my true self within these walls. On rainy days, I would sit with a cup of warm tea and read endlessly as I lived through the characters in the novels. I felt the wounds in my heart slowly begin to scab. Over solitude was no longer a monster eating me alive. It was the fertile soil that nourished me. When we start something new, must we always have a reason that justifies it to others? Seeing Yeong-ju, I realized that a single step taken just to survive can be the firmest step of all. Do you have a space or a time that you want to protect, even if you can't quite explain why? Yeong-ju's bookstore took root in that very solitude. Every morning, she reminded herself, today will be a time for me That quiet resolve seeped into every corner of the shop, touching everyone who entered the second story. The time of brewing Min-jun's coffee. The bookstore truly began to breathe when Min-jun arrived, a young man who had graduated from a prestigious university, only to face repeated failure. In the job market, Min-jun began working as a barista at the shop. For him, brewing coffee wasn't just labor. It was a practice in learning how to live in the present. I love the scent that spreads when I grind the beans, watching the hot water meet the grounds to create those tiny bubbles. It clears my mind. The owner tells me not to hurry. She says that enjoying the moment of brewing is just as important as the taste of the coffee itself. By brewing with care every morning, I am reclaiming my lost time. Before, I was so worried about the me of next month or next year that I neglected the me of today. But now, focusing on the stream of water from my fingertips, I finally feel alive. Initially, Min-jun worried that this job would be a stain on his career. His heart wavered every time. He heard news of friends joining conglomerates, but Yeong-ju's quiet comfort and the kind eyes of the regulars calmed his anxiety. Sometimes, the owner recommends a book. It's never a lecture like, read this and find the answer. Instead, she quietly says, Min-jun, this sentence might make your heart feel a little lighter. Reading those books, I realized that the world's answer isn't necessarily my answer. Brewing a cup of coffee, handing someone a book, these acts can be a form of salvation. I've decided not to hide behind the title of job seeker anymore. Right here, right now, I am a barista who warms people's hearts. In a world without fixed answers, finding your own path is a lonely endeavor. But just as Min-jun found stability in the scent of coffee, perhaps we can all find our own. Brew. The value of work isn't decided by a paycheck, but by the sincerity we bring to it. What kind of fragrance lingered in your day today? I hope there is something near you that warms your heart, just like the coffee Min-jun pours. The third story. Conversing with books. The guests. Hyunam-dong Bookshop gradually became a way station for many. It wasn't just a store. It was a place where people carrying unspoken burdens could set their luggage down. For a while, Yeong-ju often saw reflections of her own loneliness in the backs of her customers. A bookstore is more than a place that sells books. It's where hearts meet. One guest today stood in front of the poetry section for a long time. Seeing their trembling hand reach for a book, I saw a longing beyond words. I quietly served a cup of tea. We didn't speak much, but through that book, we shared a silent empathy. Some wipe away tears, others let out heavy sighs, but they all seem a little lighter when they leave. That alone is reason enough for me to keep this place. One guest who stood out was Sung-woo, a middle schooler, exhausted by his mother's high expectations and an endless cycle of cram schools. Instead of nagging him to study, Yeong-ju gave him the freedom to bury himself in a sofa with a comic book or a novel. When Sung-woo first came, his eyes were lifeless. I didn't ask him any questions. I just handed him the books he wanted to read. One day, he asked me, "Why do you like reading?" I told him, "Because while I read, I can live someone else's life. It makes my own worries feel a little smaller." Sung-woo became a regular. He's now expanding his own universe through the characters he meets. He's starting to explore the path he wants to take. rather than the track adults laid out for him. Simply having someone nearby or encountering a sentence that understands your heart, that is often enough to give us the strength to keep going. Yeong-ju never forces a book on anyone. She simply waits for them to discover the words that will save them at their own pace. Has a sentence touched you lately? Sometimes a single line can offer more comfort than 10,000 words. The fourth story. The meaning of work beyond burnout. Yeong-ju wasn't always this peaceful. Before the bookstore, she was a high-flying career woman, but at the end of that road, she found only the cold ashes of burnout. Through the bookstore, she completely redefined what it means to work. In the past, I whipped myself to achieve. I cut back on sleep, networked tirelessly, and ran, looking only forward. But one day, looking in the mirror, I saw only a hollow shell. I thought I loved my work, but I was actually terrified of it. Terrified of falling behind, of not being recognized. Now, I earn much less, but I am much happier. I realized that work that consumes, you cannot be sustained. I may be walking slowly now, but my feet are planted firmly on the ground. Yeong-ju focuses not on sales pressure, but on the moment a book she chose becomes a small light in someone's life. For her, labor has moved beyond a means of survival to a noble act of self-realization and connection. What is work? Is it a process of self-consumption or self-completion? I have chosen the latter every morning. When I open the shop, I look forward to the books and the people I will encounter. I do my best within my limits, and I spend the rest of my time caring for myself. Not letting work swallow my life is the greatest wisdom I've learned here. The bookstore is my workplace, but it's also the clinic where my soul heals. How many of us are burning ourselves out like the old Yeong-ju when we force ourselves to match the world's clock? Something inside inevitably breaks. Yeong-ju's confession asks us, is your life okay right now? What is the thing that truly makes you smile? We all need time to stop and ask ourselves these questions. When the criteria for success moves from the eyes of others to our own inner selves, we finally find freedom. The fifth story. On being a good person. Connection and understanding the Hyunam-dong Bookshop teaches us the beauty of a respectful distance and deep understanding. Yeong-ju, who once pushed people away due to past wounds, learned how to form healthy relationships again through this buffer zone. What does it mean to be a good person? I don't think it's about grand sacrifice. It's about not judging someone's sorrow too easily. It's about quietly staying by their side. As I listen to the stories of those who visit, I feel my own wounds healing. We are strangers, yet we are connected through books. Accepting and embracing each other's imperfections, perhaps. That is why we live together. I've come to believe in the warmth of relationships. Again, Yeong-ju, along with Min-jun, Hee-ju, Jung-so, and the others, forms a loose solidarity, a bond where they don't intrude on each other's privacy, but reach out a warm hand when it matters most. We have book clubs and writing circles, not to show off knowledge, but to share our lives. Painful stories divorce. Family conflicts flow out naturally here. No one blames or tries to teach. A simple, I see, that must have been hard, is enough. That simple comfort keeps us alive. Good people gather to create a good space, and that space helps us grow into better people. I am no longer afraid of being alone. It is a beautiful irony that while we are hurt by relationships, we are also healed by them. If we have just one person who accepts us as we are, we can stand up again. Do you have someone like that in your life? Or are you being that person for someone else? The sixth story. The Sanctuary. A close on growth. Time has passed, and the Hyunam-dong Bookshop has become a neighborhood landmark. But for Yeong-ju, the numbers still don't matter. What matters is that this place remains a sanctuary for someone, and that she herself continues to grow. I close the door tonight, thinking, I hope this small space gave someone the strength to endure today. I too have grown so much. Through this shop, my once staggering steps are now steady, and my heart flutters with anticipation for tomorrow. The bookstore saved me, and I live by protecting it. Our stories will continue between these bookshelves, like a line from a book. Life goes on, and we will find our own beauty. Within it, Yeong-ju is no longer buried in the shadows of her past. Among books, coffee, and people, she has found her whole self. The weight of life remains, but she now has the inner strength to carry it. As we close the final page of this story, a light seems to turn on in the corner of our hearts. The peace Yeong-ju found reaches out to us. Growth isn't about grand success. It's the process of loving yourself a little more than you did yesterday. How did you feel listening to the story of the Hyunam-dong Bookshop today? I hope your heart feels as warm as if you've just finished a cup of coffee poured by Yeong-ju herself. Perhaps we all have our own Hyunam-dong Bookshop inside us, a place where we can escape the noise of the world and simply be. If life feels heavy right now, or if you feel lost, please just stop for a moment. Like Yeong-ju, try placing a single book of comfort on the empty shelf of your heart. You don't need grand goals or plans. Simply telling yourself you did well today is enough. We are all flowing at our own pace. It may look like some are ahead and some are behind, but we are all just passing through our own seasons. Just as spring inevitably follows winter, your current hardships will eventually become the fertilizer that makes you strong. Like the people in the bookshop, I hope we can all be small resting places for one another. A warm gaze or a sincere, "How are you?" can change a life. Now, gently close your eyes and let go of the day's noise. I hope the soft music and the sound of turning pages from the Hyunam-dong Bookshop visit you in your dreams. There, you can rest in your most comfortable form. You are beautiful and precious just by existing. Remember that as you fall into a deep, peaceful sleep, thank you for spending this time with me. Tomorrow will be a day that is a little kinder and a little more peaceful. Rest well. Good night.